At 10 minutes to 10 a.m. as we head towards closure, it's time now to look at the EFF. Now we've learned about the EFF celebrating its eighth birthday and looking at the role the EFF have played in the political landscape of South Africa. We're joined by independent research professional, lead researcher at the Benchmark Foundation, David van Wyk. David, good morning to you. Welcome to the show. David, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now loud and clear. Welcome to the show, David. Now, obviously, we've seen the 8th birthday celebrations of the EFF, and one cannot run away from the fact that the EFF obviously have made an impact on the South African political landscape to the left of the government. And there hasn't been many dull moments as far as the EFF is concerned. But just looking at 8 years later, we know they have grown their support base. But looking at where they fit in, how they have fitted in, and also looking at generally, what have they achieved in the last 8 years?
Yes. Well, I think first and foremost, the EFF is the consequence of the African National Congress not being able to accommodate a transition to a new generation of leaders, and the current leaders hanging on to power at all costs. I think the second cause for the emergence of the EFF is the fact that the African National Congress demobilized all popular structures of participation by young people, by workers, by women, and so on. When they came to power after 1994. And you can see the African National Congress still has a problem with its youth league even now. And so that failure to provide for the transition from where they are currently is what's given rise to the young people organizing themselves into a separate organization after being kicked out of the ANC. And to the detriment of the ANC, because the ANC is going to die of old age now. And the EFF is probably going to emerge to replace them in the process. And the EFF has been very much in the tradition of Winnie Mandela, very focused on pro-poor politics, on the politics of race and so on, and also of being there when there are issues. They've very much got an issue-based approach to politics. So, where there's an incident of racism, the EFF will be there, and they will be the first people to be there. Where there is an issue of any form of discrimination, they will be there and in your face. Also in Parliament and so on, they've been very strong on issues like corruption and so on, and calling out ANC leaders around issues of corruption. And in fact, being behind the fall of Jacob Zuma, for example, as well, but doing it in an approach which is very charismatic. So on the one hand, they were quite happy to see Zuma falling, and on the other hand, they do still feel that as a human being, he needs to be treated with some respect. And so people think that this is a contradiction, but in actual fact, it is a very clever play on politics and a very charismatic play on politics and growing their support base in the society as a whole.
Yes. Now, David, I think what is interesting, and when you're talking about issue base and when you're talking about a pro-poor stance and also looking at the Zuma Must Fall campaign and the like as well. But what we find is in terms of delivery, apart from the rhetoric that we see the EFF repeating itself over and over again over issues, as far as delivery is concerned, and this is where I think many critics of the EFF would say that they failed to deliver. And also, when you're talking about adopting certain positions when it comes to corruption, this is a country, this is a party that obviously has had its own fair share of scandals. The VBS Bank is just one glaring example. So, making noises is one thing, but being short on delivery.
Well, I think two problems here. I think, first of all, if you are to deliver, you have to be in government. It's government who is supposed to deliver. There's opposition parties that have to point out whether the government is delivering or not delivering. I think the EFF has been very good at pointing out the shortcomings of the governing party. With regard to the issue of scandals, I think that the media focus has been a little bit slanted in the sense that with BBS, for example, we speak about 12 million that was supposed to go to a relative of Floyd Shivambu. Now, no one has been charged with that yet, so, legally speaking, you are innocent until proven guilty in this country. And I think the second problem is that nobody focuses on what happened to the other 120 odd or more million in that particular scandal, So there's just this focus on the EFF was involved, but no focus on the involvement of other politicians and other political parties and so on. I think that when we talk about that particular issue, we should call out everyone. So yes, I also think that there might be problems in the EFF in that they were schooled in ANC politics as youth, and some of that rot might have gone through into their ranks as well. Having been through the school of the ANC previously, So I think that yes, we need to call out any corruption and so on that is there in the EFF. But we also have to be fair as far as issues of delivery is concerned. You can only really, as a political party, deliver anything when you are actually in power. And we will have to wait and see on that one.
Well, certainly, but also I think when one looks at the EFF, it's about one person a lot. It's about the leader. It's about Julius Malema. And many within the EFF obviously look up to Julius Malema because, he's charismatic, he's got the gift of the gab, and he knows when to make the right noises. Now, sometimes he does it for the wrong reasons as well, and, that obviously is an issue. But just looking at the party, without a Julius Malema, would the EFF be what it is today?
Well, I think that there are two issues here that is important. Very often with left-wing parties, the leaders tend to be very important, and that charismatic leadership might actually pose a problem for the party in the future, because when the charismatic leader goes, maybe the party will not survive. But if you listen to the recent interviews with Julius Malema, the emphasis on building organization and on building structure might allow to move beyond the problem of the charismatic leadership issue, which is really an issue. But then on the other hand, we can also look at, you might get very effective charismatic leaders, that can actually lead an organization for a very long time, and the organization survives beyond that. But on the other hand, you get organizations that fall apart when the charismatic leader goes. What I like about the EFF is the emphasis on education, and the emphasis on their leadership being educated and going to university and earning the degrees and so on that are required for effective leadership. And they push that on the agenda for all political parties now. We see investigations into DA leaders, for example, who lied about their qualifications. We see the ANC being caught out for not having qualified people in positions of leadership and so on. And that has all come about as a result of the focus on education that is there with the EFF. Also,
yes, I think, sorry, we just lost you there for a second, David.
Yeah, I'm saying that in terms of charismatic leadership, the fact that Julius Malema emphasizes the issue of building a party, structures and so on, might overcome the problem of charismatic leadership. The other thing is their emphasis on education is very important. And they have brought out other political parties in the process, because the EFF makes a big issue of having educated leaders. And so we've now discovered that there are several leaders in the DA, for example, who have lied about their qualifications. We find that the ANC has been caught with its pants down because it doesn't have educated people in relevant positions of power. You know, and so there's been a shift in the country towards education. And this has been very good for the youth of the country as well, because they can look up to the need for education to be in leadership.
Yes, David, thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, time has basically run out, but we certainly do value your time with us. We appreciate you coming out and talking to us this morning. All the best to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Bye.
Independent research professional, a lead researcher at the Benchmark Foundation, David van Wyk. And with that, we come to the end of this morning's broadcast of News and Views. From myself and the rest of the team at Salam Media, the early morning team, we wish you well, we wish you safety, and please take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.